Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome you to UMBC's Community Leadership Virtual Open House. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. This session will be recorded for quality assurance purposes. For attending today's session, you will be provided with an application fee waiver. The waiver code will be emailed to you before the end of the next week, but we will also share this information with you during the question and answer period of the presentation. In order to provide the best experience for you and all the other attendees, please keep your microphone muted throughout the session. If questions arise during the presentation, please feel free to utilize the WebEx chat feature to submit your questions. We have outlined a question and answer period at the end of the presentation to address your questions. In the event that we are unable to answer your questions, a representative from the professional programs team will touch base with you via email. We hope that you enjoy the presentation, and I would like to turn the session over to your graduate program director, Dr. Sally Scott.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It is wonderful that you have joined us today, somewhat early on a Saturday morning, and I realize that this is a challenging time for all of us, so I particularly appreciate your being online with us today. So the MPS in Community Leadership is a master's program. We also have a certificate option, and the two of us who are online today are the two people you can get information from if you need to in the future. That's myself as program director and Renee Eisenhuth, who was just speaking, who is the program coordinator. And like all of you, we are working virtually from our home these days, but we hope to be back at school in the fall. So, Community Leadership Program. We're a new program at UMBC under the Division of Professional Studies. We also have very close ties with the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science. And this program is designed to prepare aspiring and practicing leaders with the skills and experience needed to enact transformative social change. Now, what does that really mean in practice? It means a combination of strong academic grounding in the practices of community leadership, models of community leadership, the context in which one exercises community leadership. So we look a lot at issues of social justice, racial justice, history of these important concepts in the United States, and particularly in our urban centers. That's number one. Number two is we really want you to come out of this program with specific skills. So we have built into the class time a number of workshops and trainings, and we also will point you toward additional trainings that are available to UMBC students or community members that are useful in this work. Things like asset-based community development, racial healing and transformation, a whole number of skills-based practices that we have experts at UMBC or in the Baltimore community. And then finally, the third and very much equally important aspect of the program is experience with community organizations. We will help you find community partners to do projects with, and that will start in the introduction to the program and continue throughout the program. So, who is becoming a master's student at our program? We just started in the fall. We are rapidly growing, and what we're learning as people join our program is that we have many kinds of students, and that our students, because they come into the classroom often with interesting life experience, personal experience, they're learning from each other as well as from our faculty and staff, and then the community leaders that they engage with. So we have folks who have already been working in the nonprofit sector or at the community level, but also people who are coming from very different backgrounds, such as government, local, state, and even federal government, and from the for-profit sector. And in some cases, folks are seeing our program as a way to transition. They know that they would like to be more engaged in community work, in some aspect of that. But they're not sure, the best way. They don't have the background. So our program is a vehicle to both get the academic grounding, the practical experience, and the community connections to do that. We have diverse ages, and that's been, I think, a really great aspect of our introduction to community leadership class this semester. We've got people who are fairly recently out of college and people who've been out of college 5, 10, 15, even longer than that. And that's another way in which people bring different types and different levels of experience to the program. What does connect, I think, everybody in the program and form a strong bond among our students is a commitment to both understanding how community oriented organizations work or efforts to help communities work, and a commitment to engaging in that work themselves. And we provide different pathways for doing that. We'll get to that in a second. So, as I mentioned, we've got both the master's level and the certificate. To get the master's degree, you have to do 30 credits, while the certificate program is 15 credits. Of course, if you start in the certificate program and decide you want to go further, all of those credits gained in the certificate program apply to the master's program. And this is, a well-recognized degree, the UMBC M.P.S. Masters of Professional Studies degree. And as I mentioned, we're both intent on providing a strong academic background, but also in developing your skills and giving you a chance to do hands-on learning at the community level. Even now, when we're limited to remote contact with our community leaders, our students are finding ways to develop projects that are very useful to their community partners, and will help, we hope, those partners weather this terrible crisis and emerge from it with some new programs and new sources of income. Our goal is to really help you in your career development. We've covered a bit of this. I think what is really critical is that this is applicable to a wide range of communities, but we are focused on our Baltimore area as our source of partner organizations and source of community-based expertise in this field. And there's a huge amount of that in Baltimore. Folks who've really devoted their lives to this kind of work, and who we invite into our classroom, or we invite you to make contacts with them out of the classroom. As you go through the program, in addition to getting specific, understanding and knowledge through a variety of courses, and we really tap all the richness of UMBC in our coursework, we will help you develop a digital portfolio, which is a way of capturing all the different kinds of products and experiences that you have in the program in a digital format. And then instead of just having a kind of a resume with bullet points, you will have, in addition, this kind of living, growing body of work that will be online, that you can carry with you whatever you do after the program. And the capstone class, which is the required class that everybody does at the end of the program, you will develop a intellectual product that is also a product that is useful to a community organization. So we say it broadens the capacity of your partner organization. So there's very strong emphasis on the practical aspects of what you do, as well as the intellectual aspects. Just last week, we had a class where our students invited their community partners into the classroom, meaning in this case online, to answer questions. And the students came up with the questions, asked the questions of their partners, and this is a screenshot from that. And really looking at this, you probably can't tell, who are the students, who are the faculty, who are the community leaders, because everybody's, in these different boxes, and it's not obvious who is who. But it was a really substantial and interesting conversation that we had, I think about an hour and a half with these community leaders, and asking them both about how they got into this field, um, how their organizations operate, what the goals and mission is of their organization, and also how they're coping right now when they're not able to be, on the ground, helping kids make art, providing um, uh, meals for people who are particularly vulnerable. These organizations that were invited to this session do all kinds of amazing work, both in Baltimore City and in the greater Baltimore area. And it was a really kind of wonderful experience hearing how they are managing to continue their work despite all the obstacles now, or if they have to take a step back, how they're using that opportunity to plan for the future. So we just hope that this kind of exchange will grow throughout the program. We'll be adding new community partners as we expand and grow. We'll be adding new adjunct professors, or people who have, strong community experience, who want to give back and work with our students and teach our students. So here is a little bit of the nuts and bolts of the required classes in the master's program. The class that you just saw the screenshot from is that first one, Community Leadership 601, and that's where we really establish a lot of the core principles. The class is not at all of a lecture-based format. It's very much a discussion-based format, and we see ourselves, both students and faculty, as a learning community. And we also establish, our knowledge of some of the ways in which our communities have struggled in the past because of history of racial segregation, institutional racism, and economic inequality. And those are important, really important factors in understanding why our communities are facing the challenge that they're facing now. In addition, there's a choice between the Sociology 600 or Public Policy 600 to understand methodology. And that's really to help you be able to understand and fully analyze statistical studies, both quantitative and qualitative studies that are going to be useful in understanding dynamics of communities and how programs get evaluated that are trying to help all the variety of nonprofit and government programs that exist. Another course that we are developing, all the courses that you see, CLDR, those are community leadership courses that we are developing and teaching out of our program. The other courses are tapping other parts of UMBC, but the second community leadership core course, Legal and Ethical Issues in Community Leadership, is to help you understand some of these, the legal frameworks in which community-oriented organizations or community efforts that are from the public sector operate, and what are the ethical issues. I think we're facing some of those really serious issues right now in our communities about, how do we ensure that we're treating communities equally, or if we're looking at it from the inside, from an organizational perspective, how do we operate? How do we work in a community fully cognizant of the challenges and power dynamics that we're operating under? Fourth course, Sociology 606, Social Inequality and Social Policy, is an excellent and well-established course in the sociology department, engaging with the true and deep challenges in our country of social inequality and how that affects our social policies. And then finally, I think I mentioned briefly the Capstone Project, which is where you will engage really substantially, very deeply with a particular organization, the challenges they're facing, and produce a product which will be one of real use to the organization, but also one that fosters real intellectual growth and understanding for you. And I should mention that all of these courses are designed for working professionals. You do not have to be working full time. We have people who are not in our program and who are doing very well. But if you are working full time, these courses are offered in the evenings, usually 4:30 to 7, or roughly 7 to 9, and then it's up to the student to figure out when is the best time to make contact with community organizations. So far, everybody's been able to do it just fine by the flexibility of their community partners and also faculty members. I mean, we're happy to talk to people at night if that's the best time for you. The pathways, this is the way we are helping you structure your journey through the program. And to make sure that you come out of the community leadership program with a set of courses that cohere. So everybody takes the required courses that we just went over. And then you have a choice of quite a wide array of electives. But the goal is not to take, one elective here, one elective there, but to have a set of electives that come together into a pathway so that when you graduate, you can feel like you've really gotten some in-depth understanding of a particular area, and then you are well positioned to find work in that area. So the three initial pathways that were designated were urban studies, which is a deep focus on urban dynamics within the United States, though there are courses that touch on urban dynamics outside of the United States as well. Second one is nonprofit and social sector. There's a well designed set of courses through our sociology and anthropology department at UMBC, which address the nonprofit and social sector. And in this pathway, you would take those courses and we would work closely with the sociology department in helping you design, your final projects, because they also have students reaching out to community organizations. So we want to make sure that those projects fit together for every student who's on that pathway. Third pathway is a really fascinating one that we're just starting to see growing interest in, which is the social entrepreneurship. There is a program at UMBC within the Division of Professional Studies, which is focused on entrepreneurship from a social perspective. And we have access to those classes. And so in addition to the core courses, you would take 4 electives within that program. And really, it's really about harnessing the tools that are used by the private sector, the business sector, for social good. So an example of this is there is a business in Baltimore City, Flying Fruit, which creates these delicious smoothie type drinks. But the goal of the business, in addition to bringing in revenue, is to use that revenue for job training. So the folks who are making the drinks, serving the drinks, and these are all fruit drinks. I'm not talking about alcoholic drinks. These are young people, young folks in Baltimore who need a job and are interested in learning these job skills. So that's just one example of many in the ways that you can use business for social good. Finally, we have Design Your Specific Pathway. What we quickly realized as the program was getting off the ground is there are other areas of strength within our faculty and departments at UMBC that could be harnessed to be a pathway for our students. Examples of that might be health. If you're interested in how health plays out at the community level, we have courses related to that, and you could use those courses, those electives, to pair with the required courses. So as the program director, I will be meeting and consulting with each student to determine the pathway and to approve a set of courses that will kind of get you where you want to go as you make your way through the program. We offer these classes in two locations. One is the UMBC campus, which is out, it's really between Catonsville and Arbutus, and beautiful campus, as many of you may already know. But all of our community leadership courses, the one that say CLDR before them, are going to be taught in Baltimore City. UMBC has a classroom space at the Lion Brothers building in Southwest Baltimore near Holland's Market, for those of you who know the city. It's a great space. It's a beautifully renovated old factory building, and it connects us kind of from the get-go. We actually do a walking tour of the neighborhood for our Introduction to Community Leadership class, and it really connects us from the get-go to Baltimore City and to communities that are growing and changing and struggling, and to understanding that context. So we have some great classroom space. So what are the admissions requirements? If you've been online, you may have seen these. It is necessary to have a BA, but it does not have to be in a subject that's related to community leadership. We desire a GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale, though we recognize everybody's story is different and we have some flexibility there, but we need to really kind of understand your personal situation, and we hope you're as close to a 3.0 as possible. Everybody has to submit a resume and a goal statement, an official transcript as well. Letters of reference are optional. We'll say that it is helpful to have a letter of reference just to get an objective perspective on your academic or professional experience, but it is not required. International students, there is some specific information that you should look at on the International Mission page. So we refer you to that, and then there is a $50 online application fee. And any questions about that or anything that I've talked about today, we can discuss during the question and answer period. These are the current tuition and fees. If you are a Maryland resident or a qualifying regional resident, and that pertains to, there are certain parts of Pennsylvania, District of Columbia, I think, and Virginia. And Renee Eisenhuth, who's much more expert on these matters than I, can correct me if I got that wrong, but there are specified areas outside of Maryland that are designated and that you can receive the lower tuition cost if you are in those areas. If you're not Maryland resident or not in those particular areas, special areas outside of Maryland, the cost goes up to $12.72 per credit, up from $7.99 per credit. And here are links to the financial aid and scholarship office, as well as to the student business office. And what I found as a relative newcomer to UMBC, I started there last September, is people are very helpful. They want to make your application experience a positive one, and certainly your student experience a positive one. So please do not hesitate at any point in the process to, contact us or contact these various offices if you need. And if you become a student at UMBC during your period of students, the graduate students are expected to maintain a GPA of 3.0. And again, we are very available to help you do that. We understand, especially in times like this, that there can be special circumstances and challenges, but we also expect, real engagement and real effort from our students. And from what I've seen so far with our community leadership students, they are quite interested and engaged and willing to do the work. And I think that they are actually enjoying the work at the same time. So we'll make the instruction as high quality as possible and expect in return strong student effort. The remaining part of the slide talks about the expectation that you remain enrolled, though up to 2 consecutive semesters with a leave of absence are allowed by the graduate school. And then there's all description of policy and procedures for any problems that arise are available at that website. So I think we're rolling up to the end. Yep, we've got our questions, and please note the contact information here are emails and phone numbers, so that if you have a question that arises after this session, you can contact us. And of course, in the website that was mentioned, I think on the very first slide, you can also get access to a lot of this information. So why don't we open it up now? Everybody can unmute themselves. And I'll just ask Renee if she has anything to add that she do so. Maybe talk about the waiver of the $50 fee. That would be helpful.
Hello, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. So at the bottom of this slide, you will see a special populations code. On the online application, which you would get to through the graduate school's website, the last page of the online application, it will ask you if you have a special populations code. That is where you will enter this DPS 2020. It is case sensitive with no spaces, and that will allow you to submit the application without paying the application fee. Again, if you want to type in any questions, we can answer them now. And
I think we've got a relatively small group, so I'd be happy to take typed questions, or if you just want to speak your question, ask us that way. That's fine as well.
so, Sally, I do have one question. It was, do they need a background in community leadership to be admitted into the program?
That's a really excellent question. No, we're expecting people to come from a whole variety of backgrounds. We do hope you've had some experience, either professionally or as a volunteer, working at the community level. But that can vary quite substantially. If that could have been, working at a soup kitchen, or, helping kids through a mentoring program, or, volunteer coaching at a sports program. But this program requires a certain level of comfort with jumping in our first required course, the introductory course, contacting people at the community level, finding a community partner that you're going to be interviewing, and working with. So we'd prefer you not to be brand new to all of that, but you don't have to have years and years on your resume of having worked at the community level.
I have another question, and I can
Mm-hmm.
actually answer this one. It was about application deadlines. So the program does accept applications for both the fall and the spring. The fall application deadline is August 1st, while the spring application deadline is December 1st. And then we have another one. Do we require official transcripts for the application? And the program itself and the graduate school can review an application with unofficial copies of your transcript provided at List Your Degrees, but they will require an official transcript to be on record. I think it's 2 weeks after the semester starts, or they will block future registration. And then, Sally, I have another question about class times.
Mm-hmm.
With them being in the evening, the question is that once a week, twice a week?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Yes, that is once a week, to roughly 2.5 hours of class with a break in the middle. And so it's very possible to take more than one class, but that would mean you have 2 evenings a week. I should also mention that we are looking into designating electives from the geography and environmental science program. They have some really fascinating courses on food systems in Baltimore, and really using some of the tools of mapping and um, geographic analysis to understand kind of what's going on in communities, including Baltimore communities. And those classes are taught during the day. So if you happen to have availability during the day, you may be able to take advantage of those courses. But all of our required courses and the great majority of our electives are going to be offered at night. And also, most of them are going to be during the fall semester, September to December, or the spring semester, February or late January through early May. There will be occasional opportunities to take classes during the summer as well. One of our required courses, the Sociology of Inequality, is being offered this summer. And we think that there will be, this summer things are a little upside down because of the virus emergency, but we also think there'll be some training opportunities during the summer that may or may not be offered the rest of the year. But in overall, we will not require anything that is during the day, but there may be options to do things during the day, during the week, if you have time available during that time.
All right, thank you. We have another question. If you could talk more about the capstone class, and are they tangible products that are developed for the organization, or more like developing a program?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. And, our thinking is that these will be products that the student will work closely with the organization to develop. So when you say tangible product, it could, by tangible, it won't obviously be something you hold in your hands. It will be a it could be a mapping program. It could be more of a traditional research-based product. But we really wanted to open it up to things that require, real thought, real analysis, but don't fit into a classic academic paper format. As I mentioned, the mapping, it could be a plan for how's this program, say it's a youth leadership development program. how's this program going to maintain contact with the graduates after they leave the program and continue to help them as their careers go on, maybe loop them back into the training of people who are currently in the program so that the alumni are reaching out to the current students in the program. So the point is that we're trying to foster a certain level of comfort and proficiency with skills that are not simply academic research skills. For example, one of the trainings that we will make available to our students is digital storytelling, and this is something I'm learning about as well. But it's the ability to, tell a complex and important story through a variety of digital formats, and something that that is also a kind of capstone project that a student could develop with a community partner. So we're trying to keep it pretty open at this point. It will have to be, of course, screened by myself as the program director and any other faculty who would be involved with the product. But you will not be, if I understand the question directly, you will not be like developing a whole new program, like a new nonprofit or a new division of a nonprofit. You will be developing something that existing nonprofit can really take and use in their work.
We did get a thank you. That was very helpful.
Good. Good.
We do probably want to point out what courses are required for the certificates, because there was a question about what courses for those. So I'll bring us back to the required course slide real quick. And it's all of them except the CLDR 602.
Right. So you get the benefit doing the certificate. You get the benefit of the core courses, except for 602, and of the capstone project. And I think that's probably obviously that's a good option for somebody who's facing real time constraints, wants to do this more quickly, or perhaps already has a master's in a related area, because with the certificate, you're not getting the elective options, which allow you to go into greater depth in the nonprofit studies, urban studies, social entrepreneur, health, education, whatever your particular focus is. But if you already have that and you're really looking to add this more very focused community leadership piece, this is a great option for you.
Okay, and we have another question about the online application. What happens once that is submitted online and it comes up with a PDF form, and do we need to print and submit that somewhere else as well? I will go ahead and answer that. No, if you complete the online application, everything you submit online will actually automatically be uploaded to the graduate school, which will then be available to those of us working in the program to review. You can also, if you save your login when you create a login for your online application, you can kind of log back in to see what items have been received by the graduate school for review. I will add for the regional tuition rate. I'll put that in the chat again, but it's all of DC, Delaware, certain counties of Pennsylvania, and certain counties of Virginia.
Thank you. I had forgotten Delaware, which is quite ironic because I am from Delaware. But it is a pretty substantial area, so it's really worth looking at those specifics if you think you might be in one of those areas and could benefit from it. I'd say right now, among the current student body, most folks are, from Baltimore City or Baltimore County. But a lot of people have had experience working elsewhere, of course, also going to school elsewhere. And I find it really helpful and, um, useful to the program as a whole to have people bringing in experiences from different parts of the country or different parts of the world.
Again, I'll add if you come up with any questions later, both of our email addresses and phone numbers are there, so please contact us. And we do want to thank you for coming, but we'll stick around if you have any more questions right now.
I hope everybody's doing okay with being stuck at home. If you're in fact stuck at home, I know some people are still very much needing to having to do essential jobs outside of the house. But if you are stuck at home, hope that's going well. It's not an easy situation. I think we're all finding different ways to cope. And what I hope I captured in that picture we showed of the class that included our community partners is that the the students in the program are really the goal is really to form a cohort that you in addition to meeting every once a week in class that we will be um, providing other ways for people to gather to share in special training experiences. When it was still possible, we took everybody on, I mentioned the walking tour around the Line Brothers building, and we also took people on a driving tour of Baltimore City to try to really ground what we're learning in some of the realities of the city that, there are places that in the city that until very recently were really booming. There are places that are deeply disinvested and really struggling. And, what are the connections between these two things and understanding that in a kind of firsthand way we thought would be useful. So it's as we develop the program, I think we'll be seeking out more ways in which to bring people together to share and learn in addition to standard classroom experience.
So again, we want to thank you for coming. We know you have
Hmm.
a lot of things going on, and we want to thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. If you have any questions, we will hang out for a little bit. We do have this until 10, so
Does look like a nice day out there, so hopefully we'll all be able to get a little time outside later today.
and Sally, we got quite a few thank yous. It was very informative. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you very much, and hope to hear from you.